Hi everyone. Once again, a very good morning to all. Thank you so much for taking time to join us on this Wednesday morning. Welcome to the webinar, Technology for Businesses in the Age of Collaboration. My name is Wan Sin and I'll be your MC for today. Right, so just some quick housekeeping rules. We would like to inform all that this session will be recorded and it will be made available on SGTech's website post-webinar. And throughout the webinar, we encourage all attendees to send in your questions via the Q&A feature that you see at the bottom panel. And without further ado, I would like to then welcome our first Vice Chairman for SGTech Singapore Enterprise Chapter, Mr. Adrian Long, to open the session. Adrian, over to you, please.
Thank you, Wan Sing. Good morning to everyone, and great to see all of you here today. So I'd like to welcome everyone on board this webinar this morning, Technology for Businesses in the Age of Collaboration. So this is one of the series of events organized by the Singapore Enterprise Chapter. So being one of the chapters in SGTech, the Singapore Enterprise Chapters prioritize local tech-enabled businesses to grow within and beyond Singapore. So our mission is to help local companies strategize and evolve their capabilities by connecting to an ecosystem of like-minded entrepreneurs and resources for future success. So no-code and low-code are the futures of software development. In times to come, more and more applications development will be done by citizen developers using no-code or low-code platforms. With it, it will provide the required governance for the development across the business functions. Well, one day, we may be looking back to those good old days with a smile on how we have spent resources on professional coders to deliver a simplest applications development work. There are also still lots of anxiety as to how these new age tools speed the development and delivery of applications, freeing developers from the more mandate programming activities. How about the challenges organizations or individuals will face while embracing this platform to rapidly developing new business applications and any compromise in terms of scalability of developed solutions, as well as the potential for escalating infrastructures, storage costs associated with the qualifications of development activities that these platforms enable. So this morning, we are glad to have with us three distinguished speakers who will be touching on subjects and sharing their experiences and thoughts on the impact of such technology to the commercials and also the individuals. So we're glad to have Mr. Anorex Lien, one of the SGTech's Singapore Enterprise Chapter Executive Committee members. He will cover the concept of this new age technology, introducing some available platforms, and also sharing of the benefits of using these tools. Then we have Mr. Matthew Hartman, Chief Technology Officer from Microsoft, and he will speak on the accelerating trends in the post-pandemic economy. And last but not least, we have Mr. Jay Sanderson from Digital Solution. He's a digital solution specialist from Progress, and he will show us how Progress platform would assist to deliver impactful business solutions. So I should now get them to kickstart the sharing session and hope that you will gain in one way or another, bringing valuable information for your digitalization's journey. With that, thank you, and back to Wan Sing.
Thank you so much, Adrian, for the very inspiring address and for kicking off today's webinar. Right, so as Adrian has mentioned, please join me in welcoming Mr. Anorex Lien, ex-co-member of Singapore Enterprise Chapter. So in his day job, Anorex is the founder of Simpler Solution System. He has been in the tech industry for over 25 years, starting from Hardware Zone in the late 90s to developing enterprise cloud application solutions for government and MNCs. Today, he will be sharing with us more concepts on pertaining to delivering technology in the age of collaboration and isolation. Over to you, please, Anorex.
Hi, Wan Sing. Thank you very much. Hold on. Right. Thank you, Wan Sing. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, all good.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining this session. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks, Wan Sing, for helping to organize. Adrian, for the very wonderful introduction. Okay, so today, what I'm going to talk about is really about something that I'm very passionate in. All right, today we've just completed the 21st year in the 21st century, and how are we embracing technology? All right, to me, technology is really a passion. A lot of us, we've all heard, people say digital first. Well, I say let's go for digital love. All right, and I think it's very important. We need to have the love of digital to be able to move forward. I was watching Ronnie Cheng last night, and it was so hilarious. One of the things that he mentioned was that Asian parents want all their children to be doctors. But the irony is that it's not because they want them to help people. All right. They want them to be doctors because of the money, because of the prestige. And helping other people is just an annoyance that comes with the job. That's so bad and that's so wrong. And I really hope that doesn't happen to us in this digital world, all right, in this digital age, because digital is all about collaboration. It's all about helping people. All right. And, I've been doing application development for the last, 15 to 20 years. And I've seen that a lot of the success, right, comes in helping people to understand what digital is, what it can do for you, and how it can help you. So for today, right, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cover on two topics, all right, on how we can actually deliver digital solutions and digital experiences to our customers, and what the benefits of a digital experience is for you and your customers, from a business perspective, from an application perspective, from a business owner's perspective. And to follow through, we've got a speaker, we've got Matthew from Microsoft, and we've got Jay from Progress, all right, to assist us as well to explain these situations. So my key things is, all right, all of this is all part of the bigger scheme of things in the digital transformation. All right, so I'm only going to address two small key components. One of them is the digital solutions. How, as we as business owners, how we as application developers can actually deliver digital solutions, all right, in this digital age, and also not to forgo and forget, right, the experiences, all right, our customers who are going to experience these digital platforms. I want to make an emphasis. The customers may not be your end customers. The customers can be your staff as well, because digital solutions is through and through, is end to end, right? So also, business owners, please take note and, take note that your staff are also your customers. They are, all right? And it's very critical. Okay, so next point I'd like to bring up first, the passion, all right, for this discussion. First things first, I've noted that, in terms of legacy coding, application development, we really need to transform into a quick graphic-driven process. All right. Now, the reason why is we're all visual creatures. All right. And if we don't see, and if we go back to the 80s and the 90s, where, we just submit 1,000-page requirement specifications or a 10,000-page technical design document, nobody understands these things. All right. So in today's world of application development, it has to be graphically, graphic interface driven. All right. And also, we need to take a more agile approach. All right. We need to look at 6 months or less, rather than taking monolithic 18-month project approaches. Quick and dirty. Look at the way applications are being developed out right now. All right. If you take 18 months, by then the platform that you've already developed on is already obsolete. I mean, look at all the iPhones and, Android platforms. They keep changing so fast. All right. Now, we need to bring out something, get customer appreciation, get customer acceptance, and evolve from there. All right. And the last part also is we need to have technical solutions that allow us, all right, to be able to work collaboratively and also support automation. To me, this is very critical. All right, because I've been seeing a lot of things, and the way my team has evolved over the last 15 years, we really tried to cut back a lot of the mundane, especially source code checking, deployments, etc. This can be automated. It's just, are we ready? Are we able to accept these things? All right. So when we talk about, delivering digitally, one of the possible outcomes, I'm not promoting or 100% saying that, low code development platforms are the 100% solution, but really it is something for people to take in consideration, all right, for people to look in as an option. Now, because why? It provides an environment for you to already create apps straight away. You don't have to worry about, .NET 2.0 going to .NET 3.5 to .NET 4.0 to .NET 4.8. There are lots of low-code platforms that address these, or you could even go for platform as a service like Microsoft Application Services Environment. All right, these solutions, they provide us with applications or application platforms that allow us to develop quickly for our customers and our users. What I want to share with everyone, a lot of people, they do have this perception. My application developers also have this, they think low code, jialat, no code, and that to me is a wrong thinking. All right, low code doesn't mean no code. All right, what low code does is it takes away a lot of the mundane codings, things like your front end, your presentation layers. Progress has lots of tools, things like your dev studios, etc. They allow us to develop tools out of the box, quickly drag and drop, text boxes, controls. It could be like rotating carousels or even quick calculators, etc. Right? And without even having to code it. So it's not that there is no code, all right? The complex concepts are still there, all right? So what would we expect out of a platform, that we are looking for? Most important, I would share with you, out of the box, it must have a visual interface development environment, right? This allows for visualizing your workflows, visualizing your user interfaces, all right? And as well as the data models. All right, one of the key experiences that I have is that in the data models, a lot of people actually forget that, and the chief, records officer or the chief data officer doesn't even know the data in their organization. So this, to me, is very critical. The other portion is it must have connectors. In today's world, all applications must link up with other applications that provide a seamless flow, between your HR system to your procurement systems, to your online purchasing, all of it. All right, we must look at it and think of it as a single point. In today's world, even customers, all right, when they look at organizations, right, they look at it as DBS, a bank, not DBS credit card department or DBS home loans. We want to look at it from a single point. All right, and also we must have a tool that allows us, all right, to automate our entire life cycle management. All right, so some of the key features, really, a good local performance platform, right, allows us to do, gives us good performance, dev out of the box, omni-channel. So when we develop for one product, all right, we are actually developing for multiple products. And the last thing is also the openness and the extensibility. So that it allows us to create customizations for our customers, which is very critical. Right, so what are the benefits? Well, definitely fast development time frame, all right, because it allows us, to quickly draw up and make changes quickly. Our users get to see it, experience it, and comment on it very fast. Compatibility, all right, and because everything is one environment, all right, so it gives us a hassle-free environment solution. And the other portion here is that we don't need to put any hardware aspects, all right? And also, we let the platform manage the security and the maintainability. So, we don't have to worry about, Windows upgrades or patches upgrades, etc. It wouldn't impact us. All right. So some of the reasons, all right, I found this chart very interesting, all right, for, why people actually move towards a low-code platform. All right. Key to it is, of course, the digital innovation, reduction of the IT backlogs. All right. And also, one of the things that I see happening in a lot of organizations is actually what we call a digital deficit or a digital debt. All right. Most of us are actually experiencing that. And this would actually help us to actually reduce our legacy debt. So what can you create with a local platform? All right. So generally, you can create a lot of e-service applications, customer interaction apps. All right. yes, it's true. You can't create a lot of like funky apps like games, etc., because it's not really fully immersive, and it also doesn't talk directly to the hardware. But that doesn't stop us. All right, low code will evolve and it will slowly grow. Like what Adrian mentioned earlier, we might be moving towards a more citizen-centric app development society, and we really need, all right, to embrace low code. If not, we will be left out. So just one, I just want to share with people, and yep, I just want to share with people that, in traditional development, there's so many steps, so many stages. All right, really what I want to share with everyone, and the emphasis is the application. All right, we really need people to understand that, we need to place all our time and effort, not on the deployments and all the other policies, but rather the application. All right, so looking at the whole entire process, all right, we really need to see how we can actually implement this whole entire DevOps. All right, just want to show you a slide. So even our government has evolved, and they really have such solutions out there in the market, such as Ship and Hats. All right, and this allows us, all right, as developers, all right, to have a seamless DevOps operation. It's not 100%, it's not perfect yet, but it's getting there. So the other topic that I wanted to bring up is actually the digital experiences. All right, in today's world, right, the digital experience is critical. If people have a bad experience, right, they won't want to appreciate. And I want to share with everyone again, right, the experiences, the customer that I'm referring to is not just your customer in sales, but even the staff, even your team, everyone who is part of your organization, every stakeholder, right? They are customers, all right? Because digital is an end-to-end solutioning, all right? So key things here, all right? A lot of digital platforms, they do try to see one thing, all right? Is that we're trying to address the customer obsession, all right? But really, we must look at it and see things from many perspectives, all right? People, when I do websites for people, today, I share with them one aspect. Do not think of your homepage as being your customer's homepage, right? Google is actually people's homepage. So we must start thinking and seeing from there. We must deliver solutions such that our websites, right, interact very well with Google search, because that's the platform that people use, or Facebook, or other social media platforms, all right? And this also holds true for intranets. Right, when people go into your intranets, right, they need to see things from a holistic point of view, like not seeing HR as HR, procurement as procurement, but rather task-oriented driven solutions. All right, so the experience that comes, right, is very, very important, and that's where we really need to find tools that can actually help us, right, to engage, our digital audiences, our digital customers better. All right, with this, I end my my talk. All right, and I'd like to hand over to Wan Sing, who will introduce Matthew, I guess.
Yes, thank you so much, Anorex, for the very comprehensive insights, right? And I hope that was useful for the audience. To the audience, a gentle reminder to keep your questions coming via the Q&A feature, and we'll have them addressed towards the end of the session. And with that backdrop, please join me to invite our next speaker, Mr. Matthew Hartman, Chief Technology Officer at Microsoft. Matthew sets the technical strategy and creates opportunities together with partners to evangelize and drive adoption in customer environments with the aim of creating new opportunities for success. So over to you, please, Matthew, to take us through.
Thank you very much, Wanjin. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here with you all today. Let me just quickly throw up some slides. Look, first off, I want to say thank you to Anurax. I'm very, very big, passionate technologist, especially as it comes to low-code platforms. I come from a heritage of being a software developer. My first job was actually working for a systems integrator in Adelaide, South Australia, which is not a long way away, but long enough, right? We're talking about a 7-hour flight from Singapore. But eventually, my career over the period of time has gone from kind of developer to senior developer to a developer evangelist in Microsoft, then getting into some product management, and that's where I am today as a CTO in terms of driving that technology strategy. But all the things he talked about are very, very apt in today's world, right? We've had this sort of situation where I think the science experiment of things that organizations could do, right, in terms of a remote workplace, a different approach to innovation, different ways to engage customers, has all of a sudden come crushing down on organizations. They've had to go ahead and actually adapt. I think somebody said that digital transformation itself has accelerated faster than it ever has before for all organizations in the way to actually engage with people. So it's really interesting to look at what's actually going on and the trends we're actually seeing. And low code is one of those areas which we see a lot of innovation in that space. So let me talk a little bit about what we're seeing and what Microsoft's kind of doing in that sort of area. So first off, I want to touch quickly on the Microsoft mission. Look, yeah, our approach, I think if you remember long enough, and I'm starting to feel old sometimes, I'm not sure about some of the other people, but I remember the old Microsoft mission, which was a PC on every desk around the world. And now we've really evolved from that. We are very much now talking about, things that are a little bit more altruistic, looking at how can we help people across the world do more? How can we help organizations do more? And do more is not necessarily how do you make more money from your customers or how do you release better products. It's really encompassing bigger, more worldly sort of challenges, like how do we reduce carbon pollution? How do we help to promote diversity and increase education for people? And how does technology play into that role? So I'm incredibly excited to be a part of this organization and share with you some of the things that we see as those areas actually being more realized. A couple of areas I want to sort of drill down into a little bit, and I could talk all day, but I'm going to try and actually limit myself to the 15 minutes, is some of the things that we're seeing when we talk to customers, especially here in the APAC region. And it's not too dissimilar across the world. It is fairly consistent, but there's a couple of key areas where we sort of see a lot of questions being asked from customers, a lot of experimentations that's actually going on to address some of these opportunities they're actually seeing. So one of them that I think everybody has really truly experienced is this whole reinvention of the workplace. Overnight we were kind of told, okay, look, especially here in Singapore, circuit breaker, everybody has to go ahead and actually work from home. And luckily enough, if we think about where we're at today, Singapore's in a pretty good state, right? I mean, we don't have the spiraling out of control situation of cases. The government's pretty much across in terms of what we're trying to go ahead and actually do to get vaccines out to people. There are challenges in that, and there's ways that technology can actually apply, but the basic experience that people actually have is very, very different. It kind of looks like I'm in an isolated sort of area here inside our Zoom meeting, but behind me, you may be able to hear my microphone picking up the tapping of keyboards. My hands are here, but there's keyboards still being tapped. That's my wife. She's also doing a job and she's working remotely as well to be able to actually do the work that she actually does. And so in Singapore, we have very, very small environments. We're in a very constrained area. So a lot of organizations are trying to work through what is it that I can actually do to make that experience of the workplace safe? How do I make it secure? How do I make it feel connected, right? It's easy to look at these things in a very sterile way and say, how do we make sure it's secure for somebody to be able to go ahead and actually work remotely? But it's also, how do you keep people engaged? How do you keep people connected? How do you keep employee morale up? And what are the technologies that enable that? And communication and collaboration is a very big one in terms of making that real. And as we're starting to see the return to the workplace actually going on, what does that experience look like? And how do you actually go and make that a safe thing for people to be able to come back to? The second area, which we see a lot of innovation being driven and a lot of interest from customers, is around insights, right? And I call this the insight explosion. We've for a long time, we've been capturing data. I think as we've sort of seen over time, I feel like I'm going to go back a fair bit here. As storage costs kind of went down, we got into this mode of actually starting to store lots more data. And then certainly then with the cloud coming on board and the need to, or the reduction of the requirement of working out how much infrastructure I need, you can sort of look at it as a scaled service. We just continue to capture data. And that's leading now to a much bigger emphasis and focus on driving insights. Now, it's not that we haven't wanted to drive insights before, But the technologies that enable that is really starting to accelerate, right? So if you think about things happening with technologies like Databricks, for example, if you look at Snowflake, for example, if you look at some of the AI tools, like even Microsoft with Synapse and some of those things, even the visualization tools, right? Tableau, Power BI, all those different things. We are making those technologies much, much more accessible to individuals to be able to build out their insights and visibility into what's actually going on. And so organizations are very aggressively looking at what are the technologies I want to be able to go ahead and utilize? What are the frameworks that help me aggregate all this information together, helps me to build out models that process that information and provide insights that give me guidance as to where we want to direct our next course of action. The third area, and this is very much around what Anurag's talked about, this whole idea about accelerated innovation, right? Low code platforms. I think the point he made before is very, very real, very, very important, is that we won't have, like every single application won't have a 2-year development life cycle or an 18-month development life cycle. We will have a combination. There will be applications that deliver on a single process in the organization, and the cycle of development of those applications could be anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months, right? We're looking at this very much a accelerated form of innovation. And the people who would go and do that are not necessarily your developers. They are the people who are on the front lines who are feeling that process every single day. And they're going to be the people that go, there's a better way of actually doing this. We actually have a fantastic story where an individual in the UK, it's one of our key stories talking about Power Platform and this ability for low code. His role was a security guard at Heathrow Airport, and he identified a process that was happening with their employees, and he sort of said, look, there's a better way to go ahead and actually do this. There's ways we can leverage technology. And he started reading up, and he came across Power Platform and ended up building an application that ran on the mobiles that was rolled out to all Heathrow security people. And it literally digitized the process overnight, changed the way they did it. And now he's actually leading a lot of these different approaches to changing processes. But the other thing which I think is really exciting about this area, and it's a thing that gets me really pumped up, I kind of think about it as this democratization of innovation and technology again. We're seeing a lot more accessibility into more complicated technologies through this innovation. So if we look at some of the work that we've done on Power Platform, and I'm sure it's happening across lots of other vendors, I'm very, very close to what we're doing here at Microsoft, bringing in AI into low-code technologies, right? How does visual AI come in there? How does cognitive AI come in, recognizing characters and all these different things? Because a lot of business processes stem from paperwork or something physical that you go ahead and actually do. And so AI is a natural complement to that. And so adding that into that low-code platform, letting people have access to complicated technologies like AI, but simplifying it in its approach is amazing. Okay, so moving on from that one, I can be locked in that conversation for all day. The other two areas, a big focus on automation. I think automation kind of evolves from a lot of the stuff that we're doing around low code, but certainly there's a lot more work being done in the innovation around automation. And again, looking at business processes and trying to identify, look, does this need to continually be a manual process? Can we automate it? And automation is not necessarily about speed of getting stuff done, but it's also about making sure it's done correctly first time, every time, right? Because any sort of errors being introduced into a process can actually have a negative impact on the output of the process, right? You've all sort of heard the whole thing about data in, data out. If your data that you're ingesting is no good, then the insights and the results you're going to get from that won't be good either. And automation actually gives us an opportunity to be able to actually address that and make sure we can look at what are those processes we can optimize, that we can make better. And so automation is becoming a big part. And then the last one, there's an interesting trend in terms of distributed services and processing, right? There was this very, very, very big push where a lot of people said, hey, move to cloud, move to cloud, move to cloud. And look, Microsoft had that same sort of conversation as well, as did many of the different hyperscalers, encouraging people to shift from on-premise to cloud technologies. But there are natural workloads or experiences that you want to build which do require on-site processing, right? When you start looking at high-speed analytics, IoT, a whole range of different things, the ability to actually have shared processing across multiple locations, cloud and on-prem, becomes very, very important. And so there's a level of innovation that we're continually pushing to make sure that on-premise innovation continues. It's not just all in the cloud, because that collaboration between on-prem and cloud actually starts to deliver the solutions that are going on. And that starts to result in other areas that are being looked at in order to be able to make that happen. So these are some of the 5 things which we hear a lot of conversations that we're having with partners, with customers and things like that. But there's a couple of things which underlie all this, which are always super, super critical, right? One of them is obviously, what is the communication being done around this space? And we all have heard about 5G, right? Everybody's talking about 5G. I keep walking around Singapore holding my phone up and trying to work out, can I get 5G somewhere? And I look out my bathroom window and there's an apartment building across me and there's all these different communication towers on it. And I keep thinking, are we getting 5G in the Ballasty area? I'm not too sure if we are, but I haven't seen the 5G logo come up on my phone yet. So I'm excited to see it happen. But from an enterprise point of view, what does 5G mean for organizations, and how does that play into your systems and your operations? And certainly as we start getting into the age of IoT, having different systems connected and having 5G being a part of your network is probably going to be a reality, right? And we've certainly made acquisitions in that space with Metaswitch to have software components to help enable 5G. Obviously, hardware is required as well, but in order to be able to provide that connectivity, that backbone, communication protocols become very, very important. The other area is, of course, security, right? In driving innovation, and again, Anurag sort of talked about this, innovation accelerated can also accelerate risk. And so we want to make sure that we have the ability to ensure that security prevails everything that we go ahead and actually do, and everything that we release should have a security stance that's well configured and well designed to go ahead and make that happen. The last area, which is obviously so critical for us, is making sure that we have partners who can help customers to implement this, that provide strategic guidance. And it may not necessarily always be the partner going ahead and actually doing it for you, but in terms of things like low code and innovation, being able to actually get partners to provide best practices, or to help establish centers of excellence or centers of innovation, as they may be, that enable innovation inside an organization to take off, but do it in a way where your data is protected, the right procedures are kind of followed. We don't want to hamper innovation, but we do need to make sure we take responsibility in how that innovation is actually applied, so people don't inadvertently leak data they shouldn't through an application through no fault of their own, not understanding what's actually going on. So having that approach is important. Now, as I quickly wrap up, in terms of the technologies that apply to this, I won't go through everything here, but there's certainly some very, very interesting technology that is being utilized across these different areas, right? So, I'm sure everybody's sort of across Azure as being that big sort of platform in the cloud that offers a whole range of access to infrastructure services, from virtual machines to databases to software as a service, a whole range of different things. But there's a lot of different areas of technology which we continue to innovate in. I mean, you think about GitHub, like GitHub was an acquisition we made, and, really working to integrate that into a lot of different things. It's not just about sharing code, but how do you share documentation? How do you share innovation? How do you share ideas and get people to collaborate? Even what's really interesting, one of the things that we're seeing is that some people are starting to utilize GitHub as a repository for low-code applications, right? Because they want to have some sort of form of collaborative approach on that one. So that's kind of interesting. The other areas, I won't talk through all of them. Microsoft 365 you're kind of aware of, and things like that. Dynamics 365 from a CRM, ERP and those angles. But you see LinkedIn there, and you kind of say, well, why is LinkedIn there? And when we talk about really being able to address how do we help people do more, and how do we help them excel in what they do from a day-to-day basis, LinkedIn provides that ability to be able to connect with like-minded people, to be able to actually get access to learning and information that help you skill up on different areas, which may not be so hardcore in technology, but maybe things about how do you become a more focused employee, or a better manager, or present better, and all these different things that help people elevate their skills, which complement what they may have in the technology area. So lots of different innovations, lots of platforms that we're building upon. We're really starting to make sure these come together in a very, very coherent fashion. And we're excited to be able to work with customers here in Singapore and partners to be able to bring that forward. So with that, hopefully I didn't go too fast. Lots to talk about. More than willing to be able to converse with you in the future. But with that, Wanxian, thank you very much. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Matthew. Thanks for distilling some of the trends, such as cloud and 5G that we have heard a lot about. But thanks for helping us to understand these trends better. So we have heard from Anorex and Matthew about some of these latest technologies that businesses can leverage. But how can businesses actually get started? And that's actually our next topic. We'll hear from Mr. Jay Sanderson, Digital Solutions Specialist at Progress. Jay consults with companies in the APAC region for all things in the digital experience spectrum, including platforms, personalization, and optimization strategies. Today, he will be covering with us strategies on how one can achieve greater results and high impact for your business. Over to you, please, Jay.
Thanks, Wanxian. Yeah, thanks for that intro. My name's Jay Sanderson. I'm based out of Melbourne, Australia, and I'm a digital solutions specialist for Progress. And I'm here to talk today about how we can use some of the technologies that Progress offers to deliver high business impact. And I think that what you're going to notice as I start talking is that there's a lot of common threads based on what we've just heard from Orax and Matthew. But first, I just want to talk a little bit about who Progress is. Progress is a company that's probably underneath, behind the scenes for a lot of us, but no doubt we've all sort of had interactions with Progress technology in some way. We're a global leader in application development and digital experience technology. We're listed on the stock exchange. And we've got some pretty impressive numbers just in terms of what we're sort of doing and who we're dealing with. We deal with 1,700 ISV partners. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that on the next slide, but that's 1,700 plus companies that are taking our technology and wrapping it up to provide their own offerings. So they're trusting our technology to deliver theirs. We've got more than 100,000 enterprises that are running, absolutely mission critical business systems on Progress technology. We offer development tools to the market in the UX and UI space, among other, and we've got more than 2 million developers globally that are using that tech. And if you can imagine the demand on a company to support more than 2 million developers, it's quite large, and you really have to be doing things right. You have to have your processes down pat to deliver that in a satisfactory way. And all of that culminates in us supporting more than 6 million business users total with applications running on Progress technology, and hundreds and hundreds of millions of consumers that are interacting with websites and apps and what have you. I spoke about the ISVs a little bit before, and not only do we deal with lots and lots of different household brands across the world, when it comes to other companies that utilize Progress technology in one way or another, we've pretty much got the whole gamut, and you can just see just a small selection of some of the technology vendors that we're actually helping go to market with. Now, when it comes to delivering, high impact business, I thought it would be good just to kind of break down what are today's requirements in delivering that. Well, I think above all, what we need to recognize is that users today are really expecting this adaptive omni-channel experience. It's not just about the website or the in-store experience. Users expect to deal with us, whether it's different messaging apps, websites, in-store experiences, voice, over the phone, what have you. And I think it's really important that each one of those experiences we can adapt to where that user might be in their journey. Now, the enabler of that is to make sure that we've got all of our data connected. So our billing systems, our CRM systems, our ERP systems, our point of sale systems, we can't have any of these systems siloed. They all need to be talking to each other, letting each system know what's going on. And sometimes it can be quite hard to get those systems to talk together, and that can provide a challenge. So that's a requirement there as well. And I think, as we've seen probably propel itself in the last 10 years, is that consumers are not expecting static experiences anymore. They're expecting us to recognize who they are, what they like, and provide experiences that are personalized, perhaps predicting their next move, and just, you know, effectively doing the thinking for them somewhat. It's really kind of become expected. When it comes to the underlying technology, we've really seen a total transition away from running things on premise and people buying servers and all of that kind of thing. When we actually want to launch these technology plays, we want to make use of as a service type offerings where things can be turned on in an instant. They can be subscribed to. You can kind of fail fast and keep optimizing, etc. So that's super important. And then I guess to top it all off, we need to be agile. We need to be flexible. We need to be able to move very, very quickly. And this goes back to what the others have been talking about in terms of that low code in environments that we all seek. We need to be able to produce things quickly that are of a high standard. And then not only do they need to be reliable, that's a given, but we can never forget about the security requirements. More and more consumers are trusting businesses with more and more personal information. So we need to take that responsibility very, very seriously and make sure that we're always doing things in a secure fashion. And if we think about all of that, when it comes to actually delivering that impact, it's actually becoming harder than ever to do that. And that's for a few key reasons. The first one is just that demand of the users, what users expect of us. No longer do users simply just compare one business to another business within that vertical. Digital's really broken things wide open, and people would expect the same experience or level of experience from a business in one vertical to one in another. If you go and buy maybe a new washing machine and you have a great experience, you might expect the same experience if you're going to buy a new car, for example. Then again, this is coming back to that kind of low code, no code environment requirement, is that developers are becoming more and more a scarce and expensive commodity. It's an expensive and exhaustive effort to attract the right development talent, to retain the development talent, and to keep them excited. So we really need to constantly kind of focus on our strategies there. And a lot of organizations really kind of lack those development resources that they need to develop those kind of digital experiences and touch points that they actually want. And then we need to move on to the integration problem. Within MarTech today, it almost seems like there's not a day that goes by where a new piece of marketing technology doesn't get introduced, and that these things are easier and easier to turn on, and that's what businesses are doing. They're creating these massively complex MarTech stacks, if you like. But then when we go back to that data connectivity problem that I was talking about earlier, we still need to connect that data as well. And a lot of the times we're dealing with systems that weren't invented yesterday on the latest tech. They might be sort of sitting behind a firewall or something like that on some old kind of legacy technology. And that brings me to that final point of view. Sometimes the most important customer information, if you think about core banking platforms or billing platforms, these dinosaur or monolithic type technologies that haven't really moved a lot in the last few years, but are just sitting there doing a purpose, we still need to integrate with those as well. And that can sometimes be hard. So this is where progress really comes in. It's really addressing each one of these problems that I've just sort of spoken about. If we think about up the top, we can really kind of see all of the different ways in which customers are interacting with us. Sure, the mobile and the websites, they've been around for a long time now, 20 plus years, but now what we're starting to see the emergence of is customers wanting to interact with us in many, many more ways. And that's becoming much more prevalent with voice devices and chatbots, people using their watch for more and more things. And now we're starting to enter this exciting AR, VR space, which has got some really good potential for social networking and whatnot, not just gaming. And of course, every day there sort of seems to be new emerging channels where we spoke about IoT before. And where progress starts to help out in that first layer is we provide a lot of tooling that helps you build those experiences out at that interface level. So whether it's UI, UX tooling for applications, whether it's chatbot applications for that conversational experience, we provide tooling there. And then in that middle layer, when it comes to, well, how do I kind of assemble my content to push out through those different interfaces? We've got you there covered with our Sitefinity tooling. When it comes to that predictive, behavioral-based personalization capability, we've got tooling like Sitefinity Insight, which can take a customer's behavior, profile them in real time, and deliver personalization at scale. And then it might be a case that in order to deliver that right message at the right time, a number of different complex business rules might need to be crunched in split seconds. And for that, we've got our Corticon product, which can process those really complex business rules I guess in real time, and can also be updated in that low code, no code environment. Then finally, on the bottom there, we've got our data layer and our security layer. We've got a product called Data Direct, which helps in that exercise of connecting disparate data sources together. Let's say you've got an ancient monolithic database sitting behind a firewall on premise, and you need to connect that with maybe a much more cutting edge, bleeding edge database technology that's sitting on cloud. Or Data Direct allows you to build these hybrid data pipelines, to connect those two together. And then probably to kind of close it off, once we're sort of moving all of this data around, we need to make sure that we're secure. So Progress's Move It solution allows us to manage all of that, I guess, secure file transfer capability all in one place. And then we've got our WhatsApp Gold product that is basically there to manage all of what I've just spoke about, to make sure that all of the services and the servers and the databases and anything that any piece of technology that makes up your solutions that you're providing are up and running. So where I thought I'd sort of finish up would be just to walk you through just a couple of businesses that we've been helping out of late with our technology. And we're better to start than the World Health Organization. World Health Organization is probably one that a lot of us hadn't really had a reason to hear about or to investigate up until a little more than a year ago. And they've just seen explosive growth, not just in their need to deliver content, but also from a scalability point of view. They're seeing more and more visitors than they ever had dreamed of or had seen before. And I think one of the things that I like talking about when it comes to the World Health Organization is that they're using the Sitefinity technologies to not only provide that content to more than 150 countries, but it's a real testament to our ease of use when it comes to our software. They've got a small international team of content editors, but they're managing an extraordinary amount of content, and their ability to quickly onboard new content editors for them to learn, for them to get content out quickly I really believe is testament to how intuitive and powerful our software is at the same time. Moving from World Health Organization to an organization that perhaps you have not heard of, they're Cambridge Innovation Institute based out of Boston. Before the pandemic hit, they used to run a lot of events like we see here, and don't we all wish that that these times would return, where you've got thousands of people in a room at these different conferences and whatnot. But they basically have a business where they run a whole heap of different events to disseminate, cutting edge research. And it's not just the live events like the conferences and the exhibitions, but they're also pushing out multiple different publications and training courses. And they're doing that over 80 plus websites and brands. And one of the great impactful things that they were able to deliver in this time was that they used Sitefinity Insight technology to start tracking their visitors across those 80 websites and brands. And by using real-time visitor profiling based on their behavior, they were able to deliver the right message at the right time. And that resulted in a real true uplift of their conversion rates of 400%. And that is definitely something that's sort of super impactful. And lastly, just to finish, I don't think that any of us want to be part of that company where we're reading about a security breach in the news. And Medibank certainly is not one of those companies. Medibank are Australia's largest private health insurance provider. And what we saw with Medibank was this staggering requirement for each employee each day to transfer more than 15 gigabytes of confidential healthcare and personal information. And by implementing our Mover technology, they managed to basically centralize all of that file transfer activity in a single system. And they were able to be impactful by that project by introducing quite a drastic dollar saving to the business of around $30,000 a year, and that's growing as they do. But with that, I'll finish up and I'll hand back to you, Jean.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jay, and thanks again to Matthew as well as NRX for the insights today. Right, so now we are actually into the most exciting segment, which is our Q&A, and this will be moderated by our EXCO member, NRX. So without further ado, I'd like to invite the speakers and NRX back on screen. NRX, over to you, please.
All right, thanks, Wansing. Thanks everyone for all these wonderful, great insights and sharing with us your perspective. As you all know, I'm so passionate about this, delivering digital solutions. It could be from hardware to infrastructure, etc. I'm more towards the application and the front-end delivery sides. So, okay, so now today that we are in a pandemic situation right now. We haven't left it yet. Things are looking to get better. But but one of the things here is that we all miss going out for conferences, like the image that Jay just shared with us, where like there were hundreds and thousands of people all gathering together. I think we all miss that. The reason also, like for today's session, we're having it as a webinar rather than a last time, we were SG Tech, we used to have it, we conduct a session in the SG Tech office, etc., or in the conference room in the hotel, something like that. But because of the pandemic, we are all, over here. So actually, I'd like to know more, like from Jay, you're in Australia right now, right? So perhaps maybe you could share with us, like, how people are embracing it in Australia, and like, what is it like, you know, in this COVID, you know, world? What is the situation like in Australia?
Yeah, look, it's been an interesting 12 months. I guess what has it been like? We have I guess at the onset, Australia was very, very quick to act. You know, we went into lockdown. I think very similar to how it was going on in Singapore. Masks became mandated very, very quickly, and we're quite lucky. Like we had a few kind of outbreaks along the way, but they were reined in quite quickly. But in terms of where we're sort of sitting at now, it's really at that point where absolutely we're still incredibly cautious, but there are signs of normality starting to be reintroduced.
Sorry, I maybe my question. I was like thinking like, how did Australia embrace digitalness? I mean, because of the pandemic.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, probably very sort of similar to the rest of the world. Digital meetings became the norm. I think we sort of one of the things that I think that it really it was kind of like an economics lesson in real time. We saw all of this work from home, so there was a real need for measurement to be put into place. Like, how can you measure your outcome if you can't see what's kind of going on? We saw a lot of businesses had to quickly adapt. You know, these were the ones that were surviving, the ones that were agile enough that could maybe pivot their offering from one that needed people there in the flesh to a digital offering. You know, whether that might be subscription box deliveries or live digital events, all that kind of thing. But yeah, that's kind of where it was, and I think like now. I think we're getting to the stage where a lot of people have got Zoom fatigue and all that kind of thing. And you know, if I have to have one more Zoom meeting, you know, it's all like that, right? But we're on the horizon where things are starting to get back normal, and those face-to-face meetings and whatnot are slowly starting to happen again.
All right. So like, what are the tools, right, that Progress offers that, you know, you see an uptick in use? Like, could it be Move It or something that, you know, because of, you know, this digital, you know, collaboration, digital links? Like, what are the tools that, you know, seem to be, how do I put it, more popular, you know, with because of COVID? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm a bit of a specialist, so I mainly specialise in the Sitefinity suite. But if I can probably sort of speak there, I think that it's gone past the days of it's not enough just to have a website or just to have a digital presence. You know, that's a given. Every business has got one. Where I'm seeing the real uptick is that interest in measuring the performance of what you're doing in digital, and making sure that your investments are actually made in a way that correlates to what's actually performing. And that could be how is my digital ad spend performing? How is my chatbot driving people to particular outcomes? You know, what content strategies are working and all that kind of thing. So being able to measure, I think, is a real first step, and it's often where I see people in a state of immaturity. They don't know what's working, and we all know that digital is great because you can measure it, not like traditional media means, right? So that's where I'm spending a lot of my time. And once people have got the measurement capability set up, then they can start doing that profiling. Then they can start learning where their customers might be in a particular journey, and they can learn about who that customer is. And once you know who someone is, and where they are in a journey, then it's just a simple case of saying, well, how do I deliver the best experience to them? And that might be personalizing a page on checkout. It might be sending them a text message or an email or what have you. Then it's the play to, well, what's the best way to communicate with them?
Yeah, that sounds exactly, the same experiences that I have, even like with my Xfinity customers, in the healthcare, and I have a customer on the electronics end as well. Previously, it was just only the digital marketing people who were interested. But because of COVID right now, even the bosses, the CEOs, they are placing so much emphasis on the experiences and also understanding their customers on their platform these days. So yes, thanks for sharing. So it looks like, understanding our customers is a very big, it's an important factor these days that people actually look into. Okay, I'd like to hear from Matthew. So you shared with me earlier that you joined Microsoft, and like just before COVID or like during COVID. So how does this, what has Microsoft done, in this digital path, delivering digital solutions, to people, and how they benefit from it?
I think what's really been interesting is as you sort of said, like that whole progression into this sort of pandemic world that we actually operate in today was just like digital transformation times 10 or 100 or squared or whatever, exponential, right? It was just, everything just changed overnight. And you could almost map out the waves of focus that customers actually had as we went through, right? The first sort of wave was, how do we go ahead and actually make sure people have access to the most critical systems they have in their organization? It wasn't access to everything, but it was very much around the basics, right? How do we make sure people can get access to their primary systems on their laptops and things like that? There were even many customers, let me be completely honest, there were many customers who we as technology people, I think we take for granted. We have a laptop and we can sort of work from anywhere, but there's a lot of organizations that don't. Right. And we saw organizations literally where people were lugging home monitors and desktop PCs and things like that. And so we saw organizations quickly investigating, how do we use things like virtual desktops and remote desktops and all those different technologies to be able to go ahead and actually do it. I think once that was actually delivered on, we then also started to see where organizations started to accelerate into, well, how do we provide communication and collaboration? How do we bring people together? How do we don't stop the co-working environment? Because I mean, that's the reality, right? I mean, people come to the office and they work together. You don't go into the office and operate in a silo and don't talk to anyone, right? You typically have those engagements. And so we saw a rapid acceleration in terms of leveraging technology to facilitate that. And then that led to the next evolution, which is kind of like, well, now I have this technology. How do I start to engage with other people outside the organization? How do I bring them into this? And, Jay had the picture of the event, right? I mean, that's always one of the challenges we sort of work with, is trying to work out how do we go ahead and actually do events. And the other reality that we needed to deal with and started to work through was, do the people who attend the events have the right version of the software? Is it updated? What device are they actually going ahead and using? And all of those started to become very, very big complications. As an example, we do a lot of work with, we have an initiative called People with Disabilities, and we're working with them to help up-level their skill sets in terms of some of the technical areas, so we can actually help them find jobs and things like that. And when we went to run our first event through something like Teams, we realized there was such inconsistency in technology that became something we had to go ahead and actually change. And so rather than talking about a topic, we literally spent live 2 hours diagnosing every single attendee's sort of device experience to try and get that to work. So I think that's all started to settle down now. Like that, all of those basic foundational stuff has started to settle. And I think what we see now is this accelerated innovation coming out of it. Like people are sort of seeing the horizon coming. They're seeing that situation where we are getting not back to normal, but we're getting to stability and the fact that things are going to go on and people are going to start coming back to the workplace and start engaging more. Now it's like, what are the innovation technologies that are going to help me be ahead of my competitors or be ahead of who I'm working with? And like I sort of say, we see a lot of people picking up things around data insights. We see a lot of people picking up innovation around low code. Like I say, I think people recognize, a lot of organizations recognize that innovation doesn't come from the IT department anymore. It comes from the actual people who are going ahead and actually serving the customers who are involved in the business process. And if an innovation can save 1 or 2 hours a day or make it a better way to go ahead and actually engage customers, they're looking at doing that. And so we see a rapid acceleration in people utilizing these sorts of innovation-driven technology. So it's very exciting.
All right. I think you brought up about the Heathrow security staff, right? So actually, there's a question from the floor. Yixing actually asked this question, the story about the security staff, because he saw a need for his work, so he learned to make low code and use, for a security staff. Can you see the question in the Q&A box?
Let me have a squeeze. Oh, okay, the story about the Heathrow security staff business or needs. What happens when his colleagues suggest better features and UI? Does it then go into a UAT improvement with company support? That's a really good question. I don't know the details in terms of how they go ahead and actually do that. But what is actually very, very clever about some of the things that we have in the Power Platform, and I'm going to be specifically about product, is that we do have some rudimentary sort of features that help you do sort of revision publishing, features enhancements, and all those different things, right? So those things are there. You don't necessarily just add a new feature and then hit save and suddenly everyone's got it. There still is a publish this application to my users, so you have that level of control. What we are seeing, like I sort of said as well, we have released recently a capability where you can actually unpack a Power Apps application, because it is a little self-contained sort of file. You can unpack that. You can open it up into VS Code now. You can go ahead and commit it to GitHub. You can do all sorts of ways to manage that from a feature and a development lifecycle point of view. So all of those things are capable. It really comes down to what is the approach you want to implement in your organization. Certainly, we wouldn't do it so it's like I've made a change and all of a sudden everybody's got it and everything breaks, right? I think part of this, as much as technology is there, you've got to think also about the process of innovation.
So one point I'd like to add, if you guys saw my slides earlier as well, so a good application development platform, a low code, or even like other visualization tools, one of the key features that you definitely need to look at is actually a tool that helps in your application development lifecycle. Right, so it definitely has to go through like a pre-production or a staging environment first for people to test, UAT, and of course seek people's support and approval before publishing it, like what Matthew mentioned earlier. Right, so yeah, so I think our slides will be available for you to download. Right, do look at some of the key pointers of the features that I'd reckon are critical. All right, in choosing a platform. There was another question. I think this one's also from Microsoft. They mentioned about Muhammad Shamil. He asked about GitHub, mentioning that there'll be no code, right? And then in fact, yeah, are we sticking to low code, or is it going to be no code? Interesting for GitHub, because GitHub is actually a application repository. So if there is no more codes, I don't know how GitHub's going to survive. That's a bit of an irony here, but I want to share with everyone here. All right, there will always be code. There will always be code. It's just, where are we pushing the code to? All right, someone still has to do the coding, right? The low code application development platform still has to be developed in code. Someone still has to do the code. It's just, where are we moving the needle right now? All right, so to me, I think the answer to your question is, what is the direction of your organization? Now, with coding, you can do customization, but also you have to take the responsibility of maintenance. So it's really about weighing out, right, what you want as well. A lot of times, I think a lot of the company CTO, we really need to sit down and weigh out the pros and cons, and also the maturity of the technology at that point of time. I think these are key critical questions, all right, to address. All right, I'm not saying that no code is better than low code, or low code is better than no code, but I really think, what is your purpose here? Now, one of the key things, all right, I share with a lot of people, right, to move towards platform as a service rather than maintain an infrastructure as a service. Why? Because as a business owner, let's say, for example, I'm a florist or I just run a clinic, right? What is my interest? My interest is only in the application. It could be my point of sale system. It could be my inventory management system, right? I only care about the app. Now, if we still look towards, 10 years ago, it was more of an infrastructure as a service model, and you had to harden your servers, you had to take care of antivirus, etc. These are really, to me, it's mundane, and these are the things that we really need to move our customers away from. For me, being an application developer, I'm a Microsoft ISV. We've been developing a lot of apps, and what did we do? We actually spin up a VM in Azure and, deployed our apps on that. And, I was keeping my fingers crossed that the VM doesn't get hacked. There was no antivirus, there was no viruses on it. But that was what happened, about 10, 15 years ago. All right. But today, Microsoft offers us things like platform as a service, application service environments. So what do we do? Instead of subscribing to a virtual machine, we just, subscribe to platform as a service. All right. And we let Microsoft take care of all the security, the operating system hardening. I didn't have to wait every Tuesdays, every 2 weeks on the Tuesdays, right, for the Microsoft patches to come in. So really we have to weigh out, what do we want? We have to weigh out how much maintenance we want to offer. Now, if it's a small company, I think the answers are very, very clear cut. If it's for a bigger organization, sometimes the answer isn't so clear cut. All right, because the ROI for serving 10,000 customers versus the ROI for serving 10 staff, right, totally differs. So there are a lot of questions and answers that need to be answered, and there is no right answer. But I would say low code is one direction that we all really need to look into, all right? Because we need to automate a lot of things. A lot of things can be automated. A lot of things can be done. DevOps is definitely something, critical, all right, that we shouldn't ignore. Matthew, any comments on this portion?
Yeah, look, I'll be super quick. I mean, the way I sort of see it is that if you look at the numbers, there's something along the lines of 500 million applications that are going to be developed over the next 5 years, right? There's not enough developers in the world to go ahead and actually do that. Now, does kind of like the pro code developer role go away? Absolutely not, right? There will still be a lot of applications that are going to go ahead and actually be built, but what is happening around low code is very much about trying to actually sort of say, look, how can we... That was the sky exploding, sorry. But I think the low code thing is not a replacement. It's not a substitute. It's, what's the word I'm looking for? It's something that runs alongside. Like, you will still have pro code applications. You will still need to have developer teams that will go ahead and do things. But innovation is moving so fast. Not every single innovation that you're looking for is going to be delivered by a developer or a thing. It can be developed through low-code technologies. And I saw there was one of the questions there, and it seems like, hey, look, everything's moving to low-code. It's not. It's absolutely not moving to low-code, right? There's still going to be core applications that will result in very, very big sort of impact, right? I mean, you think about some of the innovations about IoT, around data and all these different things, like complex tracking systems, all these different things, they aren't necessarily going to be low-code. Low code is really going to help solve some of those key niche processes that need to be addressed. So I see an environment of cohabitation between developers and business people, and maybe a low code, no code platform actually brings them closer together. Yep. That's the future.
And we should look into like complementing as well. Where I like people to look into this question is, you may not embrace a 100% low code platform, but look at some of the benefits that come with it. So you could still be doing traditional turnkey applications, but do have things like DevOps in place. You could use some simple front-end tools like Ruby on Rails to implement on your front-end, automate your front-end, things like the choice of date pickers, text box, etc. So it may not be 100% low code, but where we're trying to say is try to automate your processes and pick up on the benefits of low code.
I think just a quick one, Andrew, actually, just on Brendan's question, I saw there live, right? In terms of
I was going to ask that, I'll throw that one out too. All right.
Yeah, turnkey. I'll be super quick. Turnkey applications versus low code. The turnkey application will still be there. You may need that as your base, as your core, right? But you could, as you're sort of saying, you could enhance it with, is there something I can put on top of that, which might be low code that somebody discovers, which enhances it overall. There's not a replacement. You will still want to invest in turnkey applications. And there are many, many ISVs that build on technologies from Microsoft, from Google, from Amazon. Like, you know, they have built very, very well thought through architected solutions, right? That have thought through every aspect. And what they're doing now is making sure that through APIs and extensibility, they're able to provide these interfaces that let you tack on these sorts of low code experiences to address a business process. Thanks, Anurag. I'll shut up.
No worries on this. And Brandon, thanks for sharing your question. And you mentioned one very interesting thing. So I think this will be our last question to answer for this session. We've already hit our time. You've also put up the point on product solution, PSG, which is the Government Productivity Solution Grant. You know, I'm not a very big proponent on statements like this. The reason why is then we are putting the cart in front of the horse. We are, you know, PSG is a how. It's not a why, you know, or a what. All right, and that could be a bit dangerous. Sometimes, I mean, grants are great. All right, I want to put, you know, I really want to give the hats off to our Singapore government for, you know, putting up all these grants. But I want to share people. All right, find out what you need. Don't put the cart in front of the horse. Right, you know, I've had customers. All right, they actually bought the solution before even thinking of what they needed. You know, I had a customer who actually came to me and says, oh, I've just bought this server and I want to do it in SharePoint. And the first question I asked him was, how many users are you serving? Oh, I'm serving 5,000 servers. 5,000 users. And I looked at the specification of the hardware, right? And it could only serve 250 users. So he literally, and I asked him, why did you buy it? Fire sale. You see, so it was a bit hilarious in that perspective, you know. So Brandon, to answer your question, really is, I know a lot of things, you know, a lot of the solutions on the PSG ain't complete. All right, use that to complement. All right, complement your solutions. All right. I know a lot of SMEs are not digitally ready, or they're not even digitally matured. All right, but take the first step. You know, they need to understand they need to embrace digital. All right. Early on, I did use the word digital love. All right, digital first. All right, embrace it, understand it. All right, and you can start off with small pockets. One of the big comments, or one of the big feedbacks I always share with my customers is that do not jump into the deep blue sea. All right, put your one foot in the pond. All right, start by small pockets first. You can start off with your inventory, you can start off with your HR, etc. Right, slowly, one by one, and then of course have a master plan to see how everything gels together. All right, now whether that be low code or no code or turnkey, what Matthew said earlier is very true as well. Now there are some things, right, you can do without turnkey, but there are some things you can't do without, especially the workflows that make your organization unique. But things like HR, accounting, those are quite straightforward. You know, those are quite common to me. Perhaps maybe I'm mistaken, right? But I would say the mundane things, right? If you use things like platforms as a service or software as a service, you know, be my guest, you know, go ahead, because it really helped. And, you know, nowadays, a lot of it is software as a service, subscription based, right? Look at those, how those can actually help out your organization, right? But the things like your operations, you know, the things that make your organization unique, need to identify, all right? And part of this is actually what we call a knowledge management drive, right? I think I said quite a lot. I hope I didn't confuse you, even though sometimes that seems to help on the answers. But yeah, if you want, you could also later on we have a feedback form. All right, do feel free to help us, you know, to throw your questions there. One thing.
Yeah, thanks so much, Anurag. I think Anurag and our speakers have summarized very well the key takeaways from today's session, right? And apologies to everyone again that we are eating a bit into the lunchtime, but thanks to the group of audience who stayed through with us till now. So that brings us to the end of today's webinar. And as you can see here, we would like your feedback. So simply scan the QR code or share with us your feedback via the link that you see here. And we also like to do a shout out that if within the audience, if you are not yet a member of SGTech and you think that today's session has benefited you and is useful for you and your business, right, do join us as a member. All you need to do is to reach out to membership@sgtech.org.sg.